Every single year, millions of people around the world set goals at the start of the year, and by February, most have completely abandoned them. And see, the problem isn't usually a lack of information or motivation. It's something deeper within the flawed architecture of how you're actually setting your goals and how you go about trying to achieve them. So you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your standards and your systems, and even more fundamentally, the level of your identity. And that's what most goal setting systems completely leave to chance. Is they have no idea how human beings actually work in the three different levels that we go through here in this video. And so today we're going to synthesize everything that I've gone through in over $1 million invested into personal development, sales training, understanding human behavior and psychology from a bunch of different schools of thought on achievement, right? From the instructional and identity first to the academic and systems based. And hopefully by the end of this video, you will have a unified and ruthlessly actionable framework that will move beyond the flimsy world of resolutions and into the concrete architecture of an inevitable goal achievement. Now, if you don't know me, hi, my name is Christian Jack. Consistently over the past, I'd say probably 4 or 5 years or so, I have hit every single goal that I've set aside for myself every single year. And so I've done this, I have applied this for myself, I have tested it, and it has worked out pretty darn well for me. So if it's worked for me, it probably will for you as well. So let's get into it. Number 1 is identity before everything else. All right, your strategy does not matter if your identity is still tied to who you were last year. Right? Every resolution that you fail is usually not really a discipline issue. It's just an identity mismatch. You're trying to behave your way into like a version of you that you haven't actually become yet. And so your behavior doesn't actually determine your identity. Your identity determines your behavior. So right now you don't fail at goals. You act in alignment with who you believe you currently are. And if you believe you're inconsistent, you'll miss your workouts, right? If you believe that you are trying or that it's hard, then you're probably going to quit early. And so the mistake that everyone makes is asking themselves the question, what should I do, right? The question that will unlock your next level of achievement is something different. Instead of asking, what should I do? Ask, who must I become in order for this goal to be inevitable? Not who wants the goal, but who already lives at that standard. Right? So instead of setting goals like, make $5 million this year, you must set identity mandates. I'm the type of person who turns down good things for the one thing that I said mattered. I'm the type of person who follows through, whether it's fun or whether it's boring. I am a prospecting machine if you're in sales, right? I'm a prospecting machine who creates my own luck through consistent action. And when you make a choice, the only question to ask is this what the version of me who hits my goals would actually do? And if the answer is no, then you adjust, right? Now, the key with this is you don't fake believe your way into results, right? You earn your belief through follow through. So identity is something in human beings that is built backed by evidence. All right. So in order to really change your belief in your new identity, you must change the evidence with which you feed your identity. So this is where what I call the promise ledger comes in. Every single day, I want you to write down 3, 4, 5, 6 micro promises to yourself for the next 24 hours only. And at the end of the day, mark them as either I kept my promise to myself or I broke my promise to myself. And your identity is the percentage you kept. So as an example, maybe you say, I'm going to wake up at 4 a.m., right? Yes or no? At the end of the day, do we did it? Do we not? Number 2, maybe you say like, go to the gym, right? Yes or no? Maybe number 3 would be 90 minutes of deep work, right? Yes or no? And so your target should be, depending of course on the number of goals that you set. If it's just 3, it's going to be a little bit lower, but generally I go for a target of about 75% of a weekly keep rate. So if you're below 70% for like 2 weeks, then your goals are not going to happen, guarantee it. So instead, cut the list in half and earn the right with yourself, earn the trust with yourself to be able to add more goals. All right. The number of reps that you do will compound your belief, and the belief that you have will improve your execution. because execution obviously will deliver the results that you want, and the results reinforce identity, and identity gets you to the next level, right? That's the loop of things, all right? Now, principle number 2 is rebuilding your self-trust by tracking the truth. Right? Every time that you say that you'll do something and you don't, you cast a little vote in your head for the identity of somebody who doesn't actually follow through. You don't lack motivation, you lack self-trust. And so you have trained yourself to not trust you. Okay? Confidence is not emotional. It is a contract. It's a ledger. It keeps the score. And so in order to rebuild it, you have to start keeping receipts on yourself. All right. So the real scoreboard is your inability or your ability to follow through. All right. We call this ITF, inability to follow through. And so for the next 90 days, the only metric that should matter to you is the number of promises that you break to yourself per week. All right. This is your ITF score, inability to follow through. And the promise ledger that you started in principle number 1 is your tool to track this. So maybe this is missed alarms. Maybe it's skipped workouts. Maybe it's cheat meals. Maybe it's delayed tasks. Maybe it's any sort of promises that you just aren't keeping to yourself. I want you to log every single one. And the purpose, let's be very clear about this, is not to shame yourself. All right? It is to make lying to yourself expensive and costly. Because once you are forced to actually look at how often you betray your own word, you will stop negotiating with yourself, and your nervous system will finally begin to be convinced that you are who you say you are and you do what you say you're going to do, right? And that belief will install automatically throughout this process. Now, principle number 3 is embracing the idea of controlled delusion, all right? Controlled delusion. Have you ever met somebody in your life who is just completely delusionally confident? Like, they have no reason to be confident, but for some reason, they are just one of the most confident people that you see in the world. It's like they don't give two flying, I'm not even gonna say the word, about anything or anyone aside from their belief about themselves, which is just through the roof, right? This is what I'm talking about. If your goals make sense to everyone around you, they're probably too small. Every meaningful outcome starts as a delusion to people who have never lived at that level. I love a quote Mr. Beast says. He says, "They will call you crazy until they call you a genius." Right? Your current beliefs built your current life, and that's fantastic. But if you want a different life, what got you here may not necessarily get you there. And so therefore, in order to create new life, something else must die. And so logic will not carry you to 8-figure business or a complete physical transformation. You can't just logic your way into your goals, because logic's goal is to keep you safe and predictable, right? That's the ultimate purpose of your mind, is to keep you safe, right? So you need to embrace the idea of a controlled, delusional goal, the ability to believe in a future that has not happened yet, but also being able to commit to it as if it were already real. That's the trick, because when somebody says, oh, I don't know if it's realistic, what they're really saying is that doesn't fit my limits that I place myself in within my life, in my mind. You don't need anybody's permission. You don't even need your own permission. All right. You can just decide to do it anyway. You can decide to move while you're still scared. You can decide to go for it while you're still afraid. You can still decide to do things even if you're angry about something. Like, it doesn't matter, just do it. And that alignment with your new identity will matter more to you after principles number 1 and 2 with the promise ledger and the ITF, that at this point, alignment with your new identity will matter more than agreement from your old environment. All right. So principle number 4 is either you control your inputs or you forfeit your goals. Think about it this way. Your brain, your mind, is not your ally by default. Yes, it's built to keep you safe, but it really only realizes itself. Its only goal is to keep itself safe. And it is a pattern recognizing and repeating machine. And so if you do not train it on what patterns to recognize and repeat, then it will automatically recognize and repeat the old scripts that you used to live in your life, your old identity, your old goals, your old habits. And so in the same way, if you cannot control what you consume in your life, then you cannot control what you create. So the idea behind all of this is state over strategy, right? You think you need better habits, but before habits, you need state control and state discipline. So here's how you train mental dominance. I want you to think for a moment about meditation. Maybe you just picture in your mind somebody who is meditating. Maybe you see a monk or something. Most people view meditation as spiritual, but really what it is dominance training. It teaches you the one skill that makes every other goal possible, and it's the ability to feel an urge and not obey it. Whether it be the urge of procrastination, the urge of eating sugar, the urge to scroll, the urge to doubt yourself, right? The person who can sit in that urge and in that discomfort without reacting is the person who wins at life more often than not. You sit, you breathe, and you watch your thoughts pass without obeying them. And that is how you learn the difference between a thought and a command. And so when you start to build this discipline, then you can use it for various areas of your life. And the biggest one, in my opinion, when it comes to goal setting and goal achievement is dopamine dominance. Okay, dopamine dominance, or dopamine discipline, if you want to think about it, just double D, right? This same discipline will apply to, let's say, just your digital world, right? Like your phone is a dopamine slot machine that is designed to keep you scrolling. Dopamine discipline is life discipline, is really what it is, right? You get to control your inputs with the same ruthlessness that you apply to your actions. So as an example, right? Implement 2 separate 25-minute focus blocks before touching any sort of phones or devices. All right, keep your phone in another room when you wake up, when you go to bed. Just like don't have it in your room. Use an actual alarm clock, for goodness sakes. They're like $10 on Amazon, but put it in another room, right? Use website blockers while you're in deep work. Put it on do not disturb, where nobody can get through except for like your big time emergency contacts, right? That's your attention, but then also in your environment, you can remove things that are distractions, right? Social media apps off of your home screen, enable the grayscale filter on your phone, create like a single purpose workspace. I have multiple offices in my house for multiple different types of tasks. Like this is the content room. This is all I do in this room. My bedroom, all I do is sleep in that room. My other office, all I do is like deep creative work. So make multi-purpose workspaces into single purpose workspaces instead, and pre-decide your dopamine sources, whether it be training, whether it be creating something new, whether it be, making sales if you're in sales, right? Because if the distraction can't get to you, then it can't stop you. That's the idea. And that's how you control your state. Now, principle number 5 is structure beats motivation. So you generally, like more often than not, you don't need more motivation. You don't need more energy. You need fewer decisions. All right. Freedom is not the absence of structure. It's the result of it. So the real goal is not the outcome you're chasing, but the system that you're building that makes the outcome inevitable. So I want you to picture for a moment, if you live in a house or an apartment or whatever, it is the boundaries around your house or your apartment that give you the freedom to do what you want within those boundaries, right? Freedom might look like running around your house with no clothes on, right? But if there were no boundaries, if there were no 4 walls to your house, if there was no fence around your house, you probably wouldn't feel like you had the freedom to do that, because anybody could just be walking through your property. And like, if the laws were still in place on that, then like, what are you going to do about that? You're breaking the law. You don't have the freedom to do things because there are no boundaries, because there's no structure. And so most people get caught up in the idea that you have to not have structure in order to have more freedom, but it's actually the opposite way around. Structure is what gives you freedom. So I want you to think of your calendar as your weapon here, right? Your calendar must tell the truth about your priorities. If an activity is not scheduled, then it is optional, okay? If you don't put the activity or the to-do or the task or whatever on your calendar, then it is automatically an optional thing. And so you have to stop letting your day happen to you and start designing it with that intent. Use your calendar like the weapon that it is. Block out your priorities in a specific non-negotiable order. So what I do is non-negotiables first, all right? So sleep, training, meals, family time, these are the foundation of everything. And without them, the rest is just going to crumble, all right? Next one is money blocks, right? Maybe it's 90 minutes a day for activities that directly create or collect cash, right? Depending on what you do for a living, depending on if you're in sales, depending on what your role is, like the money blocks may end up taking the majority of the daytime. That's fine. But then this is really important. Block number 3 I would recommend is what I call proof blocks. This is 30 minutes a day to publish proof of your work, to publish proof of your wins, and to publish proof of your results. All right, proof will build trust with yourself and with other people faster than promises. All right, talk is cheap. But if you just publish proof of things, both again for yourself and for other people, that's how you build massive confidence really, really quickly. All right, and then block number 4 might just be everything else. So all other sort of tasks, admin work, responses, whatever it might be. Okay, so you have to shift your focus from thinking about your goals as goals to thinking of your goals as systems. You have to shift your thinking from the outcome to the inputs, right? Not I need to make 500K this year, but instead I need a system that generates and converts pipelines so that 500K in income becomes a predictable byproduct. All right, that's it. So you design your systems, you design your input system for generating leads, or your qualification system for vetting them, or your follow-up system for making sure that nothing gets dropped after the call, right? Or your learning system for weekly improvement and structured practice, right? When you trust your system, you no longer need to worry about the outcome because the system is designed to get the outcome. So most people are busy, but you have to be booked with the right inputs. That's what matters. Principle number 6 is creating leverage and betting on yourself. If you say that a goal matters but have nothing at risk, then you're probably not very serious about it yet. You're just curious. Human beings change when there are stakes involved, not just because they feel like it, right? If there's no consequence for failing, then failure remains an option. If you have to corner yourself into consistency by creating leverage that makes quitting more painful than continuing, then that's what you have to do. It's up to you on how you want to do this. But one of my favorite ways to do this, because I'm very money motivated, put money on the line. Like, money moves energy. The fastest way to ensure that you follow through is to put your own cash on the line. This is not about gambling. All right, let's be very clear. It's about understanding human behavior, right? You do not protect what you do not feel at risk of losing. And so the sting of that potential financial loss, I guarantee you, will move you faster than 1,000 motivational videos. So to formalize this, whether it be with money, whether it be something else at risk, just draft yourself like maybe like a 12-week behavior contract, let's call it, with a friend or a mentor you respect. Do not make the goal the target, make the behaviors the target. Remember, not outcome focused, income, input, and systems focused. So the commitment might say, like, I will complete 12 deep work blocks, right? 30 workouts, and publish 40 pieces of proof by 12 weeks from now, or whatever it might be, right? And put the date. The stakes. For each missed weekly target, I will pay a predetermined amount, $100, $500, $1,000, whatever, to a person, or even better, like a charity or a political cause that you like or despise. That's also another good one, is like giving money to people or organizations that you don't like. That'll really motivate you. All right. And then the last part is verification. Commit to a weekly check-in with screenshots of your promise ledger that you have from Principle 1, your ITF and your calendar and your outputs to verify that you are actually following through with the process, and to just give you a sense of external accountability with your friend or your mentor or whoever you're doing this with. Because again, if your goal is not worth your money, then it's probably not a priority. Put cash on it and just watch how quickly your behavior changes. Principle number 7 is to reverse engineer the outcome. All right. Don't just set goals, map out the cost. All right. There is a saying in human behavior that says clarity kills resistance. So if you have any sort of resistance to your goals, then it probably stems from a lack of clarity on your goals. The highest performers in life do not just have a destination. They don't just have a goal in mind. They have a detailed, reverse engineered map of the inputs that are required in order to get there. They measure what they can control, what's generally called in business leading indicators, rather than what they can only get as an outcome, which would be lagging indicators, right? Or maybe what they can only influence a small amount. So here's how the math of achievement actually works. If you want to be a high achiever, you got to know how the math works. So work backward from your desired outcome. And if you want to generate, let's say, $1 million in revenue, right? That's a lagging indicator. You can't just like, boom, do it. $1 million comes from doing the right inputs. You must calculate the leading indicators that will produce the lagging indicator. So if you're in sales, let's talk, you want to generate $1 million in the next month for the business, right? If your average deal size is $10,000, then you need 100 new deals. So then you got to calculate your opportunities. If your close rate is 50%, then you're going to need 200 qualified opportunities to close deals. And then you got to calculate your leads. And then you got to calculate your required actions to talk to those leads and to convert them. And suddenly this vague goal of, I want to generate $1 million for the business, becomes a concrete, actionable step to say, 1,000 outreach touches or something like that, right? Your daily and weekly scorecard should track the lead behaviors and not the final outcome. That's it. Like, you want to track your leading indicators, and the outcomes are generally tracked by something else. Like your bank account tracks the outcomes, right? Your offer will track how much revenue you've actually produced so far. So you don't even have to worry about that. Like that's not going to change. That's going to be there. But what can change is what you're doing day to day. And so when you're tracking these leading indicators, instead of the final outcome, you can just say, end of the day, you check in with yourself. Did you complete your 50 touch points today? Yes or no, right? This provides you with daily wins, and it completely focuses your energy on what you can directly control in the present rather than the past or the future, and whether it is the right thing to do or not. That's it. So you can create a daily dashboard for yourself, whether it be, you got your keep rate so far, you got your deep work blocks, you've got your outputs, your inputs that you're wanting, you can do your money tasks completed, all that sort of stuff. And if any metric is let's say it's in the red for like 3 consecutive days, then you have to cut the scope of your promises to yourself until you are back in the green. Again, you have to earn the right to add more to your plate. Very, very simple. Now, last but not least, principle number 8 is operate on standards, not goals. This has been something that's been massively helpful for me personally, as I've struggled with my weight in the past, with all the stress of sales and all the excuses that I could make. I've struggled with it. And so this final principle has been the capstone of achievement architecture for me in making progress on my health and my fitness goals. And it's the transition from being goal dependent with your performance to character driven instead. So think about it this way. Goals are temporary. Goals are just these temporary, arbitrary finish lines that we create in our head, that because they are created in our head and they are temporary and they're a stepping stone to something bigger generally, like they just end up creating negotiations and exceptions and odd rules that we create in our head in order to make ourselves feel better about it, right? Whereas standards, on the other hand, are permanent, non-negotiable rules that define your identity. So as an example, a goal might be, I want to work out 5 times this week. A standard is, I don't miss workouts. A goal might be, I want to make $100,000 this month. A standard is, I don't go a day without making $8.3 thousand. Simple, right? One is an aspiration. The other is a constitutional rule for yourself. Goals create a binary of like success or failure, but then we negotiate with that oftentimes. And so tying your self-worth to the outcome and to the goals end up, you just negotiate on your self-worth instead of actually hitting the goals and becoming that new level of identity that you want for yourself. Whereas standards create an identity of, I did it or I didn't. It's like integrity or compromise. It's doing the thing that I said that I would do that mattered to me, or not doing it. And so what this ends up doing is it ties your self-respect instead to your actions. And that's a big deal, because your actions are inputs, remember, and your goals are outputs. Your actions are leading indicators. Your goals are lagging indicators. So a standard will tie your level of self-respect and your self-worth to your actions, which are completely controllable. And so this shifts the question in your head, if you will, from did I hit my target with goal-driven questions, right? Versus standard-driven question might be, did I maintain my integrity today? And so the first one creates anxiety about outcomes that you can only slightly influence. But then the second, right, did I maintain my integrity today? That will create ultimate confidence based on actions, again, that you can fully control. Your work is to define the standards that you are no longer willing to violate. Write them down. Make them the operating system for your new identity. And when you operate from a place of non-negotiable standards, the goals that you once chased become the inevitable byproducts of who you have become. That's the ultimate goal. Not to do more, but to become someone different, to become someone undeniable. And that ultimately is probably what you want to do in your life anyway. Fuck the goal. The goal is just meant to make you feel undeniable anyway, right? So this full framework, now just to wrap all of this up, is not just meant to be a list of tips, okay? This is an integrated architectural design for achievement that I've seen after investing nearly $1 million into this shit. It will require you to stop thinking like a resolution setter and start acting like an architect. So let's go back through these 8 principles. Number 1 is identity before all else. Decide who you must become in order to achieve the goal. Number 2 is rebuild your self-trust. Track your promises and make lying to yourself feel costly. Number 3 is embrace controlled delusion. Believe in a future that doesn't exist yet, and then just build the math to prove that it's possible. Number 4, control your inputs. Win the war for your attention. Number 5, build yourself systems. Make yourself goals that become inevitable through the output of a process. Number 6, create leverage for yourself. Bet on yourself to make failure feel painful. Number 7, reverse engineer the outcome. Focus on the inputs that you can control. And finally, number 8, operate on standards rather than goals. Live by a code, not by a target. So this year is not about doing more. It's about building better. It's about working smarter and harder to build the identity, to build the systems, and maintain your standards with yourself, because then the results will take care of themselves and your goals become inevitable.